I, 25 male, caught my wife, 24 female, cheating 4 days ago. To provide some context, my wife and I met when we were approximately 10 years old. We've had a thing for each other since we were kids, but it wasn't until we were 18 that it became serious. I knew she was madly in love with me, and I was madly in love with her. Therefore, the only logical next step was marriage. When we were 21, I proposed to her on Valentine's Day over a weekend away, and the rest is history. We both make ends meet with respectable careers, lovely, well-kept homes, no children, a great group of friends, and polite families. In my opinion, everything was wonderful. When I was searching through her phone, I discovered the adultery. I saw messages to a man from her workplace. This wasn't overt flirting, but it was unusual and provocative to me. He'd say things like, "I've had such a long day at work," and she'd say things like, "I've had such a long day at work." I confess that I have a temper, and I was not going to let this happen. I told her she couldn't contact him, that she couldn't block him in front of my face, and that she wouldn't have me as she did. She did all I requested of her. This leads me to Sunday evening. My cousin and I run a company together. We began it at the age of 20 and it quickly took off. We have an office where I sometimes sleep when my job load becomes too much for me. I generally order in and get the job done, and if it's too late, I'll sleep it off. So I texted my wife about lunchtime. Me and cousin are probably going to be held here all night. I'll order in so you can dine without me and don't have to wait up. I adore you. She answered minutes later, saying she was sorry she wouldn't be able to meet me that night, but she wished me luck with my job and stated she loved me as well. Everything was fine. Think about late that night. I decided that work had eaten up too much of my weekend and that I needed to visit my wife, whom I assumed also wanted to see me. So, about 7 p.m., I started making my way home. When I arrived home, I heard voices upstairs but couldn't make them out, so I walked up and saw my wife and the man. I acknowledged that I didn't manage it as well as I could have. I began by hitting his as he attempted to "Look, dude, I'm sorry." I threw him out and told him he had to go home without his shoes. My wife was frantic from the time I stepped in, and I almost got violent with her as well, but I didn't. Throughout it all, she screamed and cried, stating it was a foolish mistake, but by this time, my fears from the text conversations had been validated. I constantly urged her to conserve her breath and that I didn't want to hear any of her illogical justifications. I debated returning to the office, but I instructed her to gather her bags and remain wherever she could. I needed her out of my sight. Since then, she has remained with her closest buddy. Since then, her friends and family have blown up my phone, but I've ignored them. I did, however, inform her father of what had occurred. He was furious and sided with me. My rage has given way to regret at the idea that our nearly lifetime adventure has been thrown away for some sleazy person from her workplace from the first day. I've been keeping busy, but I'd be lying if I claimed I haven't spent every spare time sulking / crying lamenting over what occurred. I'll be calling attorneys first thing tomorrow morning to start the divorce process. Update. I had my STD tested and everything was okay. I turned over my portion of the company to my business partner, relative, temporarily until the divorce is finalized. I terminated her phone contract that I paid for HAA. I took down all of her photographs, I packed all of her clothing, and I've been up with someone. So let me get started. The fact that my STD test came back negative was a positive start, but it wasn't enough to lift my spirits. I won't sugarcoat it, the issue still bothered me. I couldn't forget about it, since she and her friends were continually blowing up my phone. I ultimately went to meet with her parents. Her mother tried to get me back into the family, but her father knew I was set in my ways and was disappointed in his daughter. This occurred around 2 days following the post. I like her father and think we'll keep in touch since we're both simple guys who understand one another. I've always admired him, and it's a pity his daughter is preventing me from officially being his son anymore. I ignored her friends, who had phoned me more times than I could count. It helped that I spent a lot of time with my friends and family. I had a buddy over and we spent a few hours photographing her and removing all of her belongings from the home. This was really soothing for me, and it felt like I was removing a stain from my life. It was much more beneficial than I anticipated. Divorce processes have begun. However, I fear I will have severe difficulties with her signing the documents and so forth. I've already signed away my stake of my business, so she can't get her paws on it. I've avoided any communication except with attorneys, as you all instructed. I debated using the man's wife as leverage in case he attempted to bring charges against me. I laid hands on him when I caught him in my home. Finally, I reasoned, why not, and messaged her on Facebook. She originally believed me, but then stated he informed her it was a lie. All I had to do was show her the doorbell video of him approaching my front door and getting escorted out without his shoes. I don't believe he's still blissfully married. Now for the next chapter. My mom believed I'd like attending her work's Christmas party. I figured why not, I hadn't gone out since the event and needed a break. I went and was introduced to the daughter of one of her coworkers. We hit it off and left the party together, but we didn't that night. She came over a couple nights before Christmas Eve, and we hit it off right away. We up many times and she stayed for 2 nights. Now, she's not a love at first sight substitute for my wife, but she is a nice lady who is surely keeping me company at a time when I need it the most. Christmas Day was more difficult than I imagined since I'd spent it with myself for a long, but having my family around me, feeding and watering me, helped a lot. Overall, I believe I am dealing much better than I anticipated. I just wanted to thank everyone who reached out to me, everyone who left a kind remark, and everyone who has gone through the same situation and is still standing strong. Story 2. Wife has been cheating. My wife, 30, cheated on me with a coworker who was about 40 years old at the time 6 years ago. Because we both have STD, I just recently learned about it. She'd always made an effort to downplay the situation. In fact, she tried to persuade me that it was a trait I had acquired from previous relationships. The two of us had been together since we were 18 years old. We never really spoke about it, and I just shrugged it off as a non-issue. We ended up having a kid who is now 4 years old, and I never addressed the infidelity issue. I found out she was cheating on me with a new coworker, who is 47, approximately a month ago, and confronted her. Her AP wife contacted me through text message, and the situation suddenly became quite serious. She first assured me that it was just text flirting. In addition, after going through her phone and backing it up, I noticed texts such as, "Love you and can't wait to see you Monday." Even images of bands we saw when we went out with my family are included in this collection. After I had known for a few days, she finally acknowledged that they had only up once while at their place of employment. Then it was disclosed that they will meet up when their company was on the road on business. She claimed that they had only up 3 times, which I do not think to be the case. After becoming aware of the current circumstances, the specifics of the first affair were made public. She says that she was only in it for a month emotionally, and that she stopped after getting the STD. She's now making an endeavor to be the ideal wife. She tells me what she thinks I want to hear, and I believe her. I just don't get how she can say she loves me, that I'm everything, and that she just wants to be with me all of the time. Do not, on the other hand, deceive me with someone who is out of shape and old enough to be her father. She claims that she was in a terrible mood at the time and that I wasn't paying attention to her, and that she was afraid to talk to me for fear of being disregarded as a result of this. How she can profess to love me and then turn around and do this to me again baffles me beyond belief. I love this girl, and all I wanted was to spend the rest of my life with her, yet I had no clue who she is at this point in time. Although she wishes for me to stay and help her work through this, and I am willing to do so, all I can think of is how she was frightened to express her feelings to me because she was afraid of my rejecting her, but she wasn't afraid to spread her legs for another man. So I'm not sure what's going to happen or how I'm going to proceed whether or not she's there. We're working on both IC and CC projects.